Ginger Pickerel, and it's my privilege to interview you for apparently the first time.
Yes.
You are a West Coast swing accomplished dancer, instructor, judge, competitor for many years now.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how did you get started in West Coast swing?
I actually was at a very young age hanging out at the local country bar at 21, and there was this one couple who stood out to me who was teaching one night, and their name was Steve and Michelle Guile, and they were from Dallas, Texas. This is where I was living, and I walked up to them and said, "What is this dance?" And then that's my first experience with swing dancing in general. I was mesmerized by it, so I actually kind of followed them around. But that's how I fell in love with this dance, was actually because that one couple.
How about that? Anybody who knows anything about you knows that you are also a Carolina shag dancer.
That's correct.
Also at the highest levels.
Yes.
Were you doing shag before West Coast swing or after West Coast swing?
Actually, I say West Coast swing first. In Dallas, Texas at the time in the 90s, we primarily did what was called push dancing. Dallas push was very predominant. Now, Steve and Michelle Giles was very accomplished swing dancers. They were doing more true West Coast swing from what I would call West Coast swing at the time. And so I started right away with amazing influence and kind of fell into West Coast swing to start with. Carolina Shag came in probably a few years later, and one of my first partnerships was with a shag dancer in the routine world, and that was Trey McCants, and he was a predominant shag dancer. And I was very blessed to dance with someone so esteemed, especially at my level of, at the time I would be considered an amateur, but because of him, I fell in love with Carolina Shag.
Sweet. I know Doug Silton mentions you when it comes to dancing, and he loves shag, and of course he loves West Coast swing.
Yes.
So, and I also know you've been mentioned by R.J. Centeno and others,
Yes.
Others in the other champion level West Coast swing dancers. So you started around 21. You met some people in a Dallas bar. You were living in Dallas, Texas. And then from there, do you remember like any particular teachers that you followed or anybody you looked up to in West Coast swing?
Absolutely. And Dallas, Texas in general has amazing dancers. The names are Romero Gonzalez, Barry Jones, we have Terry Roseborough, you have Mario down in Houston, we had the Appels. We actually had a very amazing group of swing dancers that each had their own genre that fit them. For me, I closely fell in love and resembled more of swing that Romero would call swing. I was footworky, I moved my feet very well, and he was probably my number one mentor. Took me under his wing, and I learned a lot about swing, what swing is. Not just from a West Coast swing standpoint, but from Lindy Hop, Carolina Shag, Collegiate Shag, Balboa, you name it. I got an early overview of what swing is.
Nice. So I understand it was a little different when you first started compared to now, but rising through the ranks, how did that work for you as far as like somebody starting now goes novice, intermediate, advanced, etc.?
At that time frame, we did not have a point system. It was really based on your community, your mentors, your coaches, and when you started competing, you looked upon them for guidance. So for someone like me, I was already a dancer. I was already brought up dancing, meaning jazz, cheerleading, drill team, you name it. I was a dancer before I even started swing dancing. So that part came quite easy for me as a dancer. But in that time frame, your mentor told you what division or level to compete in. If you were truly a novice dancer, still really working on your basics and foundation, they would tell you outright, you need to stay a novice. Or let's get you into intermediate. You really used your coaches.
Hmm.
So I actually went in pretty much straight into advanced.
So straight into advanced. And do you remember, was that like, did you do advanced Jack and Jills or? Okay.
Mainly advanced Jack and Jills. And at that level, I was doing some pro-ams as an AM with like the likes of Barry Jones, James Leba, another amazing dancer in Dallas. I had great influences early on. So, you know, that growing up in the ranks is either you worked your way up or you're almost there.
So are you from Dallas? Is that where you're from?
I'm born here but raised in Dallas, Texas.
So here is Colorado?
Yeah, I consider this home. This is my foundation. I did, eventually move back here in 2003 to follow family. After I went through the ranks and I was successful and I achieved winning, really all the divisions or the competitions that you should try to win and go for, I decided to move back home after living the life of a dancer in California.
Speaking of, achievements like that, any particular achievements that you have that stick out in your mind? I know I've seen you on YouTube. A lot of people have. Any particular, years that you accomplished, certain markers or anything like that come to mind?
Well, for me, the 90s was my journey. So I went from being this new dancer, falling in love with this community, traveling around just like any other dancer. I traveled all the dance events. Most of them I was actually very unsuccessful, just like most dancers. We start out unsuccessful until that light bulb hits. You found your niche. When you find that niche, you find your groove, you find your swing, you will succeed. And for me, that did not happen, it didn't take me too long. I found that niche. I found the right partners. If it wasn't for the fact I had Trey McCants, as part of my journey, the Michael Norris, part of my journey, the Doug Silton, all these people are really what made me today.
Pickerel.
Because I learned from them. So they were a great influence. Besides my mentors, they are who I am today.
And what was that? For example, the one with Michael Norris that's got so many views on YouTube. What was that division called or whatever?
Well, we competed in Classic.
Classic.
And at the time, Classic and Showcase was very different. Two different divisions. Classic was true to swing. Whether your flavor could be shaggy, could be Lindy, could be West Coast, could be Dallas Push, could be Houston Whip. Whatever your flavor is, it stayed more true to swing side. Showcase was intended more for the flair, the tricks, the excitement side of the performance. And at that time, we were classic dancers. I'm not a lift person. I'm not a trick person. I'm all feet. Michael was the same way. So that dances that we did in 98 and 99 and 2000, really was true to ourselves as dancers. We danced our dance. We danced the way we believe swing was or is, whether it's Carolina Shag, West Coast Swing, even a little Lindy Hop. At that time frame, it was about your dance. It wasn't about trying to emulate another dancer. We took feedback and we ran with it and then turned it into what made us, us.
Sweet. Okay, so you're from Colorado. You live in Colorado now, but you went to California for a while and you traveled about. That pretty much
Yeah,
sums
so
that.
I'm originally from here. I started dancing in Dallas, Texas, and then I went to California to live the life of a dancer and learn what I could about this great dance community and made amazing friends and partnerships because of it. And then I followed suit after I accomplished my journey and I came back here to Colorado.
And what those of us that live here in Colorado, which by the way, we're in Colorado Springs right now, those of us who live here know that you're a regular judge
Mm-hmm.
at all the events like 5280, Swing Time, Colorado Country Classic. Those are the big three here in Colorado. Um, So we know we can count on seeing you at those.
Yes.
What kind of traveling did you do as a West Coast Swing Champions? Like what, um, and and do you remember any particular states or whatever?
In my duration of a competitive dancer, I probably went to almost just about every competition in the late 90s, early 2000, as a invitational or a champion dancer, even while I was not doing routines. So that would be US Open, uh, Phoenix, Greater Phoenix event. That'd be Dallas Dance, that'd be Boston's event, that'd be Bill Cameron, um, Missouri, you name it. I probably did just about all of them at that time frame.
Do you remember at what point you considered yourself a professional dancer? Was like there an achievement, or was there an accomplishment, or just a feeling that hey, I'm a pro dancer?
For me, it happened, uh, I wouldn't say overnight, but it was a very swift duration. It went from being a dancer that danced a routine with Trey McCants in '97 at the US Open to I was an upcoming dancer within months to dance with Michael Norris. And that partnership is probably what made me realize I was a champion and professional at that time. We were being invited to teach, uh, to attend events, we were asked for choreography. So our feedback was being sought for at that time. So in that time frame, it's different now than it was then. But it was like you're a part of this new group. That generation of swing was a very diversified group. You had the Robert Cordova, you had Robert Royston, you had the Deborah Sekes, the Lorene Valdobis, you had the Marios. You had a very diversified group. And we were new young dancers in this very big diversified group.
Hmm. Yes, and you've rubbed elbows with many of the champions that everybody knows, the Jordan and Tatiana and RJ and all those. Yeah.
The
So
Brenton Calises and the Barry Jones. And I mean, we really have a very interesting group of champion dancers with a very long history. And they each provided some type of feedback or influence in our swing today.
what other dances do you enjoy besides obviously West Coast Swing and Shag? Are there any?
There are actually, I was blessed with dancing with Romero in Dallas, Texas. So on the nights we weren't swing dancing, we were salsa dancing, Latin dancing. So I missed those days because it was quite fun to do something that was not swing, that was equally as challenging and rhythmical. So thank you to Romero for that.
I know that you're pretty much a dancer to the core. Are there any interests outside of dance that come to mind? I know you're quite a busy lady, also as far as you work a lot.
I do work a lot. My outside interest outside of dancing mainly is just with family. I am a great aunt to nieces and nephews and their kids. So I do enjoy my family time. It's one reason why I moved back to Colorado. So, and I'm thankful that I did.
Nice. How about music? Do you have a particular taste or preference in music?
For me, I am more of the old school time frame. I enjoy varied rhythms. I actually like not just rhythm and blues and soul. I enjoy pop. I like anything with an interesting beat, a beat that varies in a song. We do come from a time frame of breaks. We don't see a lot of breaks today, meaning you'll hit the music in a break format
Hmm.
to accentuate that phrasing. So the pop music, the Michael Jackson songs of the old days was always fun for me, and I still tend to like a few really good pop songs, even though I'm a Shaggy girl.
Yes, it's fun to watch that Shag and fun to watch you dance shag, and I know you're teaching shag later on today, possibly.
I
Right?
am. I
Yeah,
am. I'm looking forward to it.
up in Denver
Yes.
at the Omni Ballroom. Yeah. Do you have any charitable interest that have caught your attention? I think you mentioned one earlier.
Yes. I mean, in our community, we are affected by cancer in our dance community. With the passing of Angel Figueroa, definitely brought more awareness to that. And obviously, any charitable event around cancer and finding the cure or finding more research on it is definitely something I'm interested in and have donated to.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Do you have any recommendations for newer dancers really interested in West Coast swing? I would have to count myself in that group, even though I'm not that new at it. But people in the novice, intermediate, wanting to progress their West Coast swing. Do you have any recommendations or just observations or
Mhm.
anything?
Well, the first rule of thumb is to enjoy it. Don't let the dance define you so early on. Define what your true dancing self is. Enjoy the journey. Have fun with it. Don't take it so seriously. And like I said, I was very unsuccessful as an advanced dancer, but I was very successful as a champion. So it could be night and day for any dancer at any time. It's the journey. Have fun with the journey. And I enjoyed my journey. So I want you to enjoy your journey.
So just focus on enjoying it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think it is about West Coast swing that makes it so popular and addictive to those of us that love it?
It is, for me, was addictive was the diverse form, is the most diverse form of swing dancing. You can do it to just about any type of music, any speed, any rhythm, any flavor.
So it's pretty customizable. Is that what?
Yeah, it is. You can really do this dance at any age, at any speed, at any rhythm that makes you dance. So that's why I found myself gravitating more to the West Coast swing world.
Do you have any observations how West Coast swing has changed over time, or the direction that this dance is going?
In my opinion, when I started in 1994, I was actually coming in at a time where we were feeling like West Coast swing was evolving at that time. Part of that shift and this growth over the 20 plus years, 28 years from the time I started, it's always evolved. It's always been evolving. I've seen hustle come and go in the dance. I've seen, a strong flavor Carolina shag in the dance. I've seen even a strong Lindy Hop influence. Now we're starting to see a little bit of a Zouk influence. There's a place for everything in West Coast swing. You know, it's probably the most evolving dance of any dances in the world.
You are a judge, and you get to you know decide whether or not somebody advances. Is there anything that you're noticing about the dance, say over the last 10 years, that caught your eye while you judge?
Absolutely. We are a swing dance, whether it's West Coast swing, Carolina shag, or Lindy Hop. The foundations of swing is it's actually all the same. It's the flavor that's different. Um, so, if you're talking about competing, then stay true to what is swing to you. So if you are a footworking person, stay true to you. If you are more in the patterns, douse push flavor, dance what you feel that is you. I would say don't compromise what is your swing because you look happy when you dance your swing. You look like you are leading and following when you're dancing your swing.
Is there any like mistakes that you see, or trends that are not really swing that prevent somebody from progressing, um, that have caught your eye?
Swing is very much a rhythmical dance. We do have our, you know, step, step, triple step for a reason. Um, I would really focus on utilizing the traditional, you know, walk, walk, triple step, or that rhythm. If you do find yourself doing too many walks, then the dance now is not rhythmical anymore. So part of swing is the feet. So even though we have great upper body movement and we see great body flight, our feet also still has to somewhat resemble what swing was and is, very rhythmical.
Ranks.
It's definitely in the lower ranks have good solid basics. Part of the reasons that this foundation is so important as a leader and follower is if you're a good leader and you know when to turn your follower on the correct foot, let's say they are so basic that they only could do a triple step, not a variation of a triple step. You want to make sure that they're on the correct foot for that turn. And the only way to truly do it correctly and be where you look like your lead and follow is to know the basics and do them well. If you are an advanced dancer, you know, trying to do a variation, you need to still be able to lead and follow within that variation. But if you don't know or have the foundation for swing to be able to do it in a basic sense, then trying to do a variation may not or could be better. It just depends if you're doing it correctly.
We're getting close to the end here. We talked about interests or hobbies, and you mentioned you mentioned that really your
Dancing's
dances.
my life.
Yeah. Um, but I know you've had quite a variety of jobs,
Yes,
quite
I have.
interesting jobs too. Could you talk about them for a minute? Or?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, most of my career was office management, but I did shift over to get my CDL and drive an 18 wheeler. I've driven an 18 wheeler, I've driven a trash truck, recycle truck, a push truck, you name it. So I kind of decided later that office management, I'm a doer. I am a workhorse and I enjoy doing. So yes, I have my CDL. I'm not currently driving, and but I do have a variety of jobs. Right now, I'm back in the office.
You're doing office management right
I
now?
am. I'm doing office management for a trucking company. So my CDL is still being used, I guess.
Okay. Is there anything else about your dance career, especially you want to mention, or that people might be interested in knowing, or
You know, enjoy dancing. I enjoy dancing, and I want everyone to enjoy the journey. Uh,
make it fun? Huh?
yeah, make it fun. You know, I have the best memories because I allowed myself just to enjoy the moment, the journey. I didn't let the losses, decide if I was going to maintain being a dancer. If it wasn't for those losses, I probably wouldn't be the champion dancer that I am today. I probably would have gave up because, like I said, even at advance, I was not a successful competitor. It wasn't until I was all of a sudden a champion that I found my niche. So don't let those losses determine who you are.
Ginger, I really appreciate you taking the time out, agreeing to this interview. There are people out there that would love to learn a little bit more about you, so now they can.
Well, thank you, Tim, for having me. It was my pleasure.